In this episode, we take a sad song and make it better. You're in the Playhouse. Welcome to the Playhouse. I'm Uncle Paul, and it's time for our very special hellos. Hello to Johnny P. from Kentucky, Beetle Dustino, and Beetle Brad, and of course Buddy the dog, Mark Williams, Ron Gilday, Beetle Babe Jennifer, Clifford and Susan, Danielle and Kate, Kelly, first generation fan Dr. Winston O'Boogie, Jerome Luby, Safe and Sound Texas Audio Excursion. And those are our very special hellos for today. And don't forget, if you'd like to have a special hello, just please leave it in the comments below, and we'll say hello in a future episode. But now it's time for Object, Presentation, Artifact, Showcase. This is an episode that we talked about. We promised that the Playhouse would do it on a very significant part of Beatles history. Thank you, Hey Jude Bear. On May 11th, 1968, John Lennon and Paul McCartney traveled to New York City to announce the formation of their own record label, named Apple Records. Now, at the time, this was really unprecedented, with the most known label by an entertainer was Reprise Records by Mr. Frank Sinatra in 1960. This was a very bold move on the Beatles' part, but as usual, the Beatles were known for making bold moves and decisions and breaking new ground, and certainly for a rock entertainment, and especially a group, to form their own label was very unique at the time. And especially also the design, which they used a Granny Smith apple. And again, for one of the first times, as far as I know and remember, that the A side of the label was different than the B side. Of course, that would also add to the cost of the production of the records, that now two labels had to be created for each 45 and album that they were to produce. Now, of course, this predated it, but the first album that the Beatles released on Apple Records was the famous album The Beatles, their double album, the only double album that the Beatles ever produced as a group. That, of course, has become known as the White Album as the years have gone by. Now, back to the press conference, that it happened in May 11th, 1968, that they were announcing this new label. And on August 26, 1968, the first Apple record was released. And that was and I hate to overuse this word because it's overused in today's English language, but this deserves it. This is iconic. Some might even say epic, but it was that Hey Jude by the Beatles. It broke so many rules that were never done before. And we're going to start with just the time. This was again released on August 26th, 1968. And this record, the running time was 7 minutes and 11 seconds. That was unheard of for AM radio. I know they were to become known for playing rock music, but at the time, FM was generally known for classical music, not rock music. This is, again, a severely different time. And most music to be played on AM radio stations, the single should be under 3 minutes in length, which was pretty much what, just by luck or guess, that the Beatles had also done. So to release a record that was to be 7 minutes and 11 seconds. This was before everyone Playhouse members like Don McLean's American Pie, which certainly broke the mold as well. But again, if the Beatles, I believe, had not gotten away with it, you wouldn't have seen long form music being played on radio stations in that period. Now, this is an original copy of Hey Jude. This is the absolute first pressing, and we're going to show you some very important comparisons. That here's the A side. By the way, I want to talk about the die cut sleeve. That's right, because we're just focusing on Apple. So this was also in America. There were only 3 singles never released with a picture sleeve. And that starts with Hey Jude. The other American singles that were not released with a picture sleeve, Something, backed with Come Together, and Get Back, backed with Don't Let Me Down. Those are the only 3. So, but they had a custom die-cut sleeve, this is what it's called, with the Beatles on Apple. Now, they released 4 singles that day. And we'll talk about them a little later on. Now, on the back side here is Revolution. Now, they're back to the time as well. So, George Martin, in Folklore Stories, had warned, because we know Paul McCartney was the predominant writer of Hey Jude, written about Julian Lennon. It was originally going to be called Hey Jules. Everyone knows pretty much this story, but for Playhouse members that don't, John Lennon was separating from his son, Julian Lennon's mother, Cynthia Lennon, and Paul just felt very close to Julian as well. And he wrote this song for him to understand maybe the anxiety that a young Julian was going through to see his mother and father get a divorce. All right. So George Martin had said to Paul, this song is too long. You're going to have to edit it a bit. 7 minutes and 11 seconds. You're never going to get any radio airplay. And as confident as usual that the Beatles, and especially Paul McCartney and John Lennon, Paul just shrugged it off and said, well, we'll see what happens. Now they will. He was totally confident that his song would be played. Now, I do remember on AM radio that the song was sometimes what they call truncated. There was no official editing of the record, but sometimes DJs would fade out early, maybe at 5 or 6 minute point. But I do remember most of the time they were playing it in its entirety. So this is the original first pressing, as we showed before, of Hey Jude, but there's something missing from the first to the second pressing. See, this area, nothing here. And this is exactly the same. But they left off 2 important things. Produced by George Martin and recorded in England. So this was added to all pressings after the fact. I also believe, I'm going to look real fast. Yeah. All right, so they manufactured by Apple. See, this is the first pressing, or in what they call the rim print, just says manufactured by Apple Records Incorporated. All right. But on the rim print of this one here, we're going to show you. Yeah, this is a great example. So this is the first pressing. This is the second pressing. That the capital also rim print information, because again, this was the first time that a Beatle record was not being, it was being pressed and issued by Capitol Records, but there was no giant Capitol logo on it that everyone normally would be looking for. So they just said manufactured by Capitol Records to make sure everyone still knew that it was a Capitol record. And there's the Capitol record logo, and that followed on all these pressings of the Apple records. And of course, same thing here on the back. This is the Revolution. I would put it this way. So you can see here, this is the first one, Revolution, Lennon and McCartney underneath. And then they added for the, this was only like a few months after the fact. There's not many of these were pressed and survived. And here's the produced by George Martin. And of course, the recorded in England is underneath here. So if you're out in a flea market or something else, and of course, Hey Jude is it was the most popular, it is the most sold Beatles single in their recording history. Hey Jude is their #1 seller, backed by Revolution, of course. But so this record you can see a lot at flea markets or garage sales. So if you do come across a fast way to remember, because you can get this generally maybe for pennies, if you find a Hey Jude, the first pressing, and you don't see George Martin or recorded in England on the label, grab that record. Again, we don't talk about value that much in the Playhouse, but I can certainly promise you that it's rarity part of it. Now we're going to show you a few other ways that Hey Jude was officially pressed throughout the years. And we're going to start with the 10th anniversary official picture disc. Now I was saying before that in America, Hey Jude was not issued with a picture sleeve. But for the 10th anniversary, I think it was the 20th actually, so I'll correct myself. 1988, time goes fast. These were released in the United Kingdom, and they did a bunch of 7-inch versions of every Beatle single, but as a picture disc, but as a 12-inch. I'll show you them in a future episode. But we thought it would be fun. The only one they did as a 12-inch was Hey Jude, backed by, this is beautiful, Revolution. And this is, of course, from the promo films that they made for each one of the songs that in America debuted on the Smothers Brothers show on the CBS television network. So this is nice. So basically why we wanted to show you these is 2 reasons. We're going to show you the largest version of Hey Jude and the smallest version of Hey Jude. This was released at the same time. These are the 3-inch CDs that we've talked about also in a previous episode briefly. These are a lot of fun to collect. This is again same artwork that was used, and this is a real CD. This format did not take off very well, but if you have a DVD player that plays all CDs at the same time, a lot of people sometimes they don't notice, or they wonder why there's an indent on the tray. If you have a working DVD player at home, make sure you push eject and you look at the tray, and you'll see a little 3-inch round circle, and that's what they thought this format would take off, and that's what it was for, to hold it. So if you have one of them and you have a 3-inch CD, because there were a lot of other artists, Madonna had 3-inch CDs, a lot of artists of the day, because again, this is 1988. And you just drop it in and you get to hear that. So here it is on the Playhouse, the smallest and largest version of Hey Jude. Now before we look at some other Apple related items and Hey Jude, we thought it would be fun to put this on the original Sears record player and show some younger Playhouse members, or the ones that certainly fondly remember these, that now record players of today, they don't have what they call a moving tone arm. They don't do what we're about to see. In a modern record player, you just put your record down and you put your arm manually onto the record. Of course, copyright prohibits us from playing any of Hey Jude. But for the rest of the episode, we thought we'd just let it spin because it looks so cool as a picture disc. But this is what we call a record drop, and I want you to pay attention to the tone arm, because you set it at 12 inches. You have a choice of 7-inch for a 45 record, 10 for a 78, and of course 12 for a 12-inch LP. And you have 3 speed selectors here, 45, 78, or 33. here we go. Now the record's going to drop. The tone arm moves. Here we go. And there's the tone arm. And it knows exactly to drop where it is. And if we had the speakers up, yes, here we go. So we're going to show you a few fun little items that were marketed throughout the years with Hey Jude or Apple Records itself. And we have some original Apple Records memorabilia that we want to show you. But this is cute. This is a little Hey Jude official licensed bear. And again, the little hang tag says released on August 26, 1968 in the United States. These were done in 1999. It's an official Beatles Apple authorized product. Again, I guess cashing in on the Beanie Babies fad. But they put out 4 of these at the time. And I just love it because also they have that picture sleeve hang on the hang tag. They replicate the die cut sleeve that we were just showing, the Beatles on Apple. Now, I was talking about that there were other singles released that day on the launch of Apple Records. Now, here's a CD set called 10 Green Apples, but the other artists were James Taylor, who started out on Apple Records before he really gained national attention and fame. He was signed to Apple Records. And Mary Hopkin, and she had a huge hit on Apple Records, and these are what they called our first 4. And they were all released on the same day. Mary Hopkin had a giant hit with a Paul McCartney produced Those Were the Days. Beautiful, wonderful song. And for some reason, this wasn't as popular, but the Modern Jazz Quartet rounded out Apple's first 4, doing a version, I believe, of Yellow Submarine was one of them. All right, so we have a Thingamabob. I believe that was it too, Mike. Correct me, Playhouse members. Leave it in the comments. Here's the original sheet music to Hey Jude. This is fun. Acclaim Music, 85 cents for just the one song, which is really nice. And we have an Apple Records shipping box. And this was the way the 45s were sent to the stores. And this was hold 25 of the same title within the box and then be shipped to, again, your local record store. This is an original Apple Records postcard from Savile Row. The address for Apple Records over in London was 3 Savile Road. It actually has the telephone number. What if you call 101-734-8232? See if someone picks up. No, we're not endorsing that. No, it's kind of fun. We have, this is very rare, and I know this is going to be very difficult to pick up on our extraordinary camera that we're using. This is a piece of Apple Records stationery. This comes from the New York offices. And there is an apple, my finger's tracing it. I know this might not come out on camera. The Playhouse viewers, I promise it's there, including the stem right there. It's a little embossed, little lines there. It says Apple here, and at the bottom, Apple Records, 1700 Broadway, New York, New York, with their New York telephone number, which I'm sure isn't Apple Records anymore, but we won't give out that number, as it probably is in service to someone else. And we have some, this is an uncut sheet of Apple Records from George Harrison's release of All Things Must Pass. You can see this is what we were talking about, where they had to produce, besides a different art for the A and B sides of all the singles. And of course, this is George Harrison's first solo artist masterpiece album. So you get all, this is an uncut sheet before they place them on the albums of side 1, 2, 3, and 4. And of course, we can't forget about sides 5 and 6, the third LP in this tremendous box set, called the Apple Jam. And this is a fun item that I only picked up recently at Barnes & Noble about 10 years ago. They repurposed a an actual Apple Records single as a clock. And they put in, you could see, it's not out of the box, but they punched in the numbers that you would need for a clock, put some hands on it. They had assorted records. But of course, when I saw Ringo's It Don't Come Easy as a clock, I just thought no Beatle fan would turn that down. And that's a lot of fun. All right, so I think I've covered everything. Oh, we have one other thing. Here. We're going to save that. I'm going to save that for our shorts. So please check out Playhouse Shorts, and you'll get to see an extra bonus item. But for now, it's time to check the comments bowl. Comments bowl is very popular. I love that sound. If you want to be in the comments bowl, it's simple. Just please leave us a comment. And while you're at it, if you're not a Playhouse member, please subscribe, as we're really trying to grow the Playhouse. So we randomly will select a previous comment that was written, previous episode. And this is about episode 16. The Beatles' Capital 45s are a sea of holes. And member Polly Hewitt commented that she never knew about printed in USA, on the Lady Madonna sleeve that we talked about. And she wanted to thank us for the repro alert. If I say that too loud, things happen. But thank you so much, Polly, for commenting. And again, if you want to be in the comments bowl, it's very simple. Please just leave us a comment. And for now, the Playhouse is closed. Thanks, Joe Friday.